it's always kind of weird going live, but here I am. Okay. Hello, for those of you who are new, I am Raquel Work, the principal teacher, and I'm just jumping on here to tell you really quickly about the Biblical Homeschooling Circle. The Biblical Homeschooling Circle is a 6-week class that you can take with me where I teach you how to integrate the biblical principles into your curriculum and into your homeschool. So I'm going to be teaching you the biblical homeschooling system. This is one of the notebooks you will receive. It's got a picture of a beautiful woman here that is indicative of a mom who is looking forward, and she is seriously on a path to making sure her children are raised in truth. And so we are going to meet for 6 weeks, once a week for 2 hours. And in those 2 hours, we're going to talk about the biblical homeschooling system in depth. I'm also going to give you a biblical homeschooling planner where I have all the calendars for the next school year and the lesson planning worksheets that you will need to fill out during our time together. And also, let's see, how to learn the biblical foundations of every subject. So we're going to also talk about that. Here's a glimpse of one of those pages, the biblical foundations of math. Who would have thought there was a biblical foundations of math? But there is. There is a way to train your children to think with truth in math, and math is really an exciting subject to do that with. You will also receive the Biblical Homeschooling Playbook. This is probably the winner here, the money maker, in the sense that it will be worth every penny that you pay to get this playbook, because in the playbook, I will go over what curriculum you should buy, the one that's most closely connected with biblical principles, how long each subject should be taught, what time frames are appropriate for each grade, what should your schedule look like, what should your learning goals be, what order should I teach the subjects in, which ones are more important than others, like if you have a interruption in the day, which one are you going to skip, which ones you're going to skip, which ones you're going to go back to later, what books you should read, and how to set up your homeschool day. So you might already know how to do that if you're a homeschooler, but this playbook is going to be highly valuable to you if you are serious about homeschooling biblically with biblical principles. Because, now let me say why biblical homeschooling is different from all the other homeschooling curriculums or methods or organizations out there. Now, what I teach, I do have curriculum, but what I teach, my specialty is not curriculum, but methodology. So methodology is basically how you teach a subject. So there's 3 parts to education. One is what you're going to teach, and that would be your curriculum. And then the other one is how you're going to teach, which is my specialty, biblically. You're going to teach biblically. That doesn't mean you're going to teach the Bible with every subject or teach, with the Bible all day, every day, or anything like that. I'll explain that in a second. And the other one is the curriculum. No, that was the curriculum, then the philosophy. So I'm going to teach you a lot about philosophy because your philosophy will dictate how you teach. So when we're homeschooling, it's easy to figure out what you're going to teach and what curriculum you're going to use. That's a no-brainer. Even if you're brand new at homeschooling, you can just pick whichever one you want, whichever one looks beautiful, as they say, or whichever one makes more sense to you. But how do you actually know that you're choosing a curriculum that's going to work? Well, that's where biblical homeschooling comes in, because when I teach you the methods to teaching biblically in every single subject, you will know what curriculum to buy. It doesn't have to be a Christian curriculum to have biblical principles in it because of the way that they teach it. So especially for math and reading, there's no there is actually, I shouldn't say that. There's Christian curriculum that teaches reading, and then there's secular curriculum that teaches reading. But the programs that actually teach reading and how to help a child learn how to read, not just from the very beginning, but all throughout their reading career and what the purpose of reading is, that is far and few between. You would have to actually know what you're looking for to find a curriculum that teaches this way. And the same thing with math. What are the biblical principles that you need to know to understand how to choose the best curriculum? Now, you might be thinking that there's, my child, I guess everybody's thinking when they're choosing curriculum, what's best for my child, as if, their child is the only one that's ever learned the way they have, which, every child is unique, don't get me wrong, but there is a set way to teach in a biblical sense that will reach every single child, because we have been in education as Americans for a long time. We've known the secular model, we've known the Christian model, and then there's the biblical model. If you look on the website Nehemiah Institute, they're completely independent, but they actually measure how well you're teaching your kids to think with a biblical worldview in every subject or every area of life. And Christian students have taken this in Christian schools, and they don't always score high on the biblical worldview mentality or understanding. So that could be a problem, because you could raise children in the Bible, going to church, praying, and they accept Jesus in their hearts, but then they grow up, they might go to college or they go into the world, and they actually fall away from God. And there's a reason for that. There's many reasons for that. But we can't just always say, well, I did the best I could. I mean, yes, every parent does the best they could. And no outcome is guaranteed in terms of what your kids are going to believe when they get older. But I can give you lots of tools and things to give you a high probability that your child will actually follow God. And one of those keys is it starts with you. What is your relationship with God like? Are you reading the Bible every day? Are you praying? Are you actually asking God to give you trials in your life? Not that we want to be all self-sadistic or whatever, but are we asking God to really give us trials, to stretch us, to grow us, to get us closer to Him? Are we responding to those in our family in a way that is godly, that is a good example? I know it's very common to, snap at your kids and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, but there is a way to overcome that. And by God's grace, I was able to do that. It's not my specialty. There's a lot of programs out there that actually teach how to, help your child behave, help them behave so that they actually are, following what you want them to follow or do what you want them to do. But, so where was I? So there is a way to do that, and we're going to cover a little bit of that in the biblical homeschooling circle, but that's not my specialty. My specialty is how to integrate biblical principles into your curriculum, into your homeschool mostly. Because after you spend 6 weeks with me for 2 hours every week, you're going to walk away with a different perspective on curriculum. And you're actually going to have the tools you need to make an informed decision, not just based on your child's individuality, but based on proven strategies that work with any child, that can work and can be adapted to your specific child. So if there's any public school teachers out there, you guys would know what differentiation means, or even private school teachers. Differentiation is when a teacher has a whole classroom of kids and they have to differentiate the instruction. So it's the same topic, same skill, but they just adjust their instruction in such a way that reaches their children or their students. And so that's what I teach. I have a master's in education, and I am a certified teacher in Hawaii. And so I have some of that background to be able to pour into other people who want that. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, send me a DM, send me a comment, find my website in my bio, theprincipledteacher.com, and you'll see all the resources that I've created. I have a free resource for you to just kind of get a feel for what I'm even talking about. But the Biblical Homeschooling Circle starts Wednesday this week, and I'm super excited. So far, we have 2 students. That's right, only 2. But I would love to have 1 more, and maybe that's you, or maybe you know someone who would want to join the Biblical Homeschooling Circle. So I'm super excited with anybody who comes, because I really want us as Christian homeschool parents to understand how biblical principles are the foundation for everything, the foundation for learning, the foundation for growing, the foundation for success, the foundation for long-term faith. And so I would love to have as many as possible in that sense. Are there any questions about the Biblical Homeschooling Circle? Again, it's 6 weeks. We're going to meet on Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we're going to just hash out all those biblical principles. And the main thing you're going to come away with is an entire year of subjects you're going to teach, and a schedule that you're going to be guided by, and all the curriculum choices that you could possibly need. And I work with you. So I'm not just going to say, this is what you do, X, Y, and Z, goodbye, have fun with that. Let me know if you need any help. This is, how can you actually implement biblical principles in your own homeschool, given your situation and your students? Only you know that for sure. So I'm here to offer all the advice and tips that I can offer. I have 20 plus years of homeschool experience. I've worked in the public school for 6 years. I've worked with special needs kids. So I have a lot of experience, and I would love to just share that with you all. So, all right, we have some questions from some people, and let's see. They want to know how much it is. Okay, that's good. You can go to my website, theprincipledteacher.com, and go to coaching services, and you'll find the Biblical Homeschooling Circle there. It's $87. That's it for the whole 6 weeks. It comes with the Biblical Homeschooling Playbook, the Biblical Homeschooling System, the Biblical Homeschooling Planner. You can also check me out on YouTube. I have 2 YouTube channels, The Principled Teacher, or you can search up my name, Raquel Work, or you could find me on Biblical Homeschooling YouTube channel. So check those out. You'll learn more about what I believe and how I operate. So what else we have here? Let's see, kind of hard to do that on a phone. Okay. I think that's it. By the way, hello. Okay, thanks for watching. I think that's it. You know where to find me. I'll catch you guys later. Bye.